Hello there, people of the internet. My name is Ojwang, and this is Political Headache. Today we are talking Gen Z. We are talking about the politics of Ruto. We are talking about the politics of Murkomen. We are talking about the politics of Lagat. We are talking about the politics of everybody involved in the killing, everybody involved in the abductions and things like that. The country is sort of interesting right now. There is a lot of fear in the air. There is a lot of people wondering what is really going on. Perhaps, I don't know whether we can honestly say that the country, there is nobody holding the country together. There is a bit of who is in charge, because is it Murkomen right now? Is it President Ruto? Is it, Kalonzo Musyoka trying to come into the government to help Mr. Ruto? Is it Gachagua trying to make sure that everything goes, I don't know what is going on. So today I'm joined on the podcast, with my co-host. How are you doing?
I'm good.
How is Nigeria? Nigeria feels like it is more peaceful than Kenya, right? You were
but
there.
They just had an incident in Benue State. There was a bad massacre.
A bad massacre.
200 people were killed.
200 people.
Yeah. Yeah. But they are okay. They are fine.
They are fine. Odhiambo, Otieno.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Perfect as usual.
I love your heart.
Thank you. The political
It's
heart.
interesting to see people rolling around during the week,
Like they got nothing to do.
You on a regular day.
Yeah, but you see, Kenya is full of entrepreneurs, so you can never tell.
You can survive.
They make their money on Sunday evening.
Or in January.
Then they gallivant the city Monday to Saturday.
You don't know what is going on with big cars. How are you doing?
Perfect.
I want to ask you, what is really going on in the country right now? It looks like the government is finding it very difficult to rein in on people that are unhappy. And every time that they try to do something, they're making a mistake. Because right now, Gen Z is in the CBD, or people are rioting in the CBD because of the killing. And then somebody's shot on close range. So I'm wondering what is going on.
Well, one thing that you must appreciate is that the country is firmly under President Ruto, of course. But we have a challenge. And Ruto finds himself at a very unfortunate position where he becomes the first transitionary president of the country after independence. Why? From independence to 2022, it was the dynasties, as he branded them, who are occupying power. But now, the country has successfully shifted from the dynasties or the dynastics of power, and now it's moving towards the secular, free-for-all kind of situation, where we're having the old guards leaving, and actually they've left. A few who are hung over about the billions are still hanging around through funny names of government. But Ruto is in transition, and since he's a transitional president, there are a lot of things that are coming up. In the group formation stages, Ruto finds himself with Kenyans at stage 2. Which is the storming stage. We've formed already, so we are at that storming stage. Now, the storming stage, people are trying to prove themselves. And unfortunately, even in Ruto's deep circles, there is the storm going on. And here we have different factions. We have two factions, functionally. We have one faction, which is the intelligent, academic, pragmatic people. Then we have the Moi hangabouts who have moved with Ruto. To this stage. This is, of course, the Farouks who are within government, etc. So the intelligent ones, like the chief of staff, the small university of David Ndii, and the likes of the ministers, they know the prudence in politics. But the others do not know the prudence, they know the practicality of politics. And so Ruto finds himself at crossroads. I would not want to be him, because his PA has to do what he has to do. But those who understand politics and constitutionalism also have to do what they have to do. So it's an amalgamation of chaos and the law. And we find ourselves at the birth of something new, which is beautiful. You're going to see how it's going to turn out.
How is it going to turn out? He has said a lot of things.
A lot of things. So I wanted to kind of break it down and slow it down.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you adjust your microphone towards me a little bit?
What did I say before we started shooting? Like that?
He'll be like that, yeah. All right.
Like
you. I think that you want to shoot him questions. So you want to.
Yes, I want to start by helping us understand. what you mean by prudence of politics versus practicality, because I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Let's start there.
So fast. What's
So
the...
I want to, okay,
Sorry.
so let me just put my thoughts out and then you can respond.
Yeah.
So you have mentioned that Ruto is, he's transitionary, whatever that means. I feel like that's a political narrative and I don't think that it is necessarily true.
Okay.
Because Ruto is a career politician. Ruto did not just arrive. Yes, the narrative in 2022 was that he's a hustler. Ametoka chini. He has been, which is true. It's factual that he has not been part of the deep state or whatever.
Yeah.
But this man has been in politics all his life. What else has he done? So I do not understand what that has, like this transitionary argument. I don't understand. And then prudence versus practicality of politics.
So good. Kenya has shifted. The politics of Kenya has shifted from euphoria. Before 2010 constitution, Kenya was basically a euphoric nation. We were voting based on popularity.
Yeah.
And the issue was about the presidency. But with the advent of the constitution 2010, Kenya has moved to devolution. And so the politics has shifted. Now it's no longer about the presidency as much. It's back at the county. Okay? So first, that shift brings the first point of transition in our politics as a country, because now we are at the ward level. Politics actually at the ward level. The presidency doesn't matter much at the time of elections. Okay?
Do you think that Kenyans think like that?
Of course,
because
they may not be aware.
We are still very hung up on the presidency. I think on paper it's true that we've devolved, but practically we are not. We have
devolved in so many ways, because one, we have the establishment of the county assemblies. Okay?
Yeah.
We have the election of the ward representatives, the MCS. Then we have the sub-counties. If you realize, whatever we knew as the constituencies are now being called sub-counties. Okay? That signals that there's some political change that is coming in. And so initially politics about advancing the interest of a sect towards the government. Okay? And every sect...
What does that mean? Okay.
Because I think that Aki is taking away from this beautiful conversation that is going on.
Yeah.
And I have to endure.
I'm not taking away. I need us to understand what he's saying.
And he is not coming out very quickly out of what he, because I think he's talking from a very fundamental level that when he says that Ruto is the transition of the government is that we used to have Moi, okay, and Moi is borrowing from Kenyatta because Moi is a continuation of Kenyatta.
Of course, yes.
Right? And then from Moi we are having Kibaki,
yes,
who served in the two governments.
Which is Kibaki is a continuation of the Kikuyu elites and the Kikuyu privilege.
Yes.
Which was there during Kenyatta's time.
Exactly. And so now I think what he's saying is it's a very loose kind of transition, if you ask me. That a lot of the old folks and a lot of the people that were holding on to the government have faded away. And we are sort of, even though, because when did Ruto start? Ruto started in 1992. 1992.
Yeah.
That is after just during the
YK 92.
Yeah, YK 92. And remember, we got our independence in 1963.
Yeah.
So Ruto is really coming to the party very late. And I think that is the kind of transition he's talking about. If you look at Ruto is sort of new.
Ruto is an outsider.
Yeah.
Ruto is an outsider to the formation of the government.
Exactly.
Why? The formation of the government and politics is anchored on first capital, then two, on the levers of politics. That is, who controls the church, who controls the economy, who controls the youth. Okay? Ruto has been a player in the pool where he's been one of the pawns.
Yes.
Okay? But now he's come to a point where he's a determinant. And now even leading key political factions and taking strong control of the levers.
Exactly.
Okay? Which Kenyatta 1, Kenyatta 2, Kibaki had strong understanding of, and the Kikuyu elite still have a strong attachment and strong control of the intelligence formations in this country.
Yeah, I think, don't you now understand what he's talking about?
I see he's talking about, but I do not understand how that then translates to his responsibility today. So now because the question you had asked initially was, why is the country falling apart under his leadership, and why did it not fall apart before?
It is perspective.
So I'm trying to understand from what you're saying.
Yeah.
I was talking with Jagero earlier, and he said he's not fazed a lot by what is happening in the country today.
Same to me.
And maybe it's because of age. He said perhaps ameona mengi.
Yeah.
And maybe the rest of us, because we are younger, we are just jarred by all of it, and it just feels like the country is falling apart. But the reality is that we are seeing, you know, like a lot of us now, the memories that we have is like maybe when you had like your grandmother telling you, lakini kulikuwa kubaya, you know, during Moi's time. We still talk in whispers, you know, they talk in whispers, and they have these memories that we do not have memories of. So we are indeed trying to catapult ourselves into the future, into an idyllic state in that sense, right? And I think we have the right to dream. I think that the Gen Z and the younger generation of this country it's dreaming of a new country, which is why we are being really, really hard on Ruto. And which is why this argument does not hold water for us. It's like, if you're given power, if people are going to wake up in the morning on August 10th, 2027, to vote you in, that's immense power. So you can't sit back and say the country is falling apart, but no, he's a transitionary president.
The country
is somebody who has not been XYZ. Can you use the power that has been given to you by your constituents and do your job?
The country is not falling apart.
That's
the clarification I want to tell you.
Yes.
It's not falling apart. The country is quite together. In fact, try to hit any Kenyan today from outside. You will know how much firm we are as a country. This country, first of all, I need you to understand that what comprises a state. There's a difference between a state and a government. All right? Now, when the state falls, government can fall any day. We go to election and it will be corrected. But when the state falls, that's when we have failed state. Now, what forms the state? And who is the custodian of the constitution? It is not parliament, it is not judiciary. It is the military. Okay? So the military is the custodian of the what? Of the state. They are the ones who are in control. That if the government falls today, who takes over? It is the military. So are we having conflict with the military today?
No.
Zero. So the state is stable.
But we are not talking about the state either. We are talking about the government.
Now let me come to that. Now when you talk about the government is in a democratic government. It's in a democratic space where the opposition will always try to get to power the soonest possible. They can go to an impeachment. They can lead to a fresh election, whatever means, so long as it is constitutional, okay? And these things only point to a very proactive democracy. So proactive democracy should not be mistaken for the country falling apart. What we have instead is a few privileged people who did not believe that Ruto could be president, who are continuously in the desire of removing Ruto from the presidency. And this is the Kikuyu privilege. That is the reality.
Let me ask you. So you're saying
yes.
So what should because I feel like part of the rhetoric you're trying to say, or what I hear you saying, is that I'm not hearing you articulate for me what the responsibility of Ruto is in this moment. Fine, we are not in
what do you expect him to do?
We are not in conflict.
What do you expect him to do?
Wait, we are not in conflict with the military. Yes, that's not fine.
Right.
But people are being killed on the streets. That has to count for something under your watch, under your rule. And then you're telling me that this person who is effectively the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, all he can do is donate 2 million shillings and give us speeches.
And what he's also saying is that somebody is destabilizing this government.
And give us speeches.
Of course.
I'm asking you, what is Ruto's responsibility in this moment?
Ruto's responsibility in this moment is to simply ensure that everything that should be going right goes right.
And is everything that is going right?
There are few people, a lot is going right. There are few people who are out to ensure that Ruto is out.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because I feel like that's a conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy, and I will explain to you how. For example, Now, for example, now we're having the question of Finance Bill 2024, which collapsed, and now we're in the Finance Bill 2025-2026, okay? That's the first question. The biggest issues in Ruto's government, for example, is finance bill, then extrajudicial killings. Right? Corruption is massive. We cannot even talk about it because it's been chronic across all the regimes. So finance bill 2025, at whose door does the finance bill rest?
What does that mean?
Who has the final responsibility on the finance bill? Is it the executive or parliament?
Parliament does pass it. If Parliament passes it,
once they pass it, what happens with the president?
It's assented.
He assents, or he can refuse to assent.
Yeah.
Did Ruto assent or refuse to assent?
He refused to assent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it implies that if you go back to the issue of the finance bill.
So what does that mean? Does that mean then that he has the power, or the
Parliament has the power.
Parliament
and
has
Parliament
the power.
failed. And I can tell you today, the composition of parliamentarians that we have is absolute bullshit. What we have as parliamentarians
we don't
even have it, in fact.
I don't
can
think
tell
so.
you. We don't even have, because the people who are there, their quality is so bad, they cannot even speak.
Yeah.
They don't even know what policy is. You ask them what's the definition of policy, they can't tell you. Except for a few, of course, Millie Odhiambo, etc. A few of them, Karoli Omondi, those ones can. But there are some, you look at them and you wonder, can this guy define what even a legislature is? He doesn't know. So first of all, the chronic illness that is there is the legislature. Because if the parliament says no, then the president will have to cave into parliament. This is not an absolute presidency. This is a very relatable democracy where we have checks and balances of power, okay? Now, two, let's go to extrajudicial killings. Ruto had the best indications when he came to power. And I'm not being his advocate here. Everything
it seems like it.
Everything that has gone wrong, or everything that could go wrong with this government, is going wrong.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But I don't wish my president to fail, because if he fails, the country fails.
Yeah.
Okay? So I can point out that this and this and this needs to be done. And I will say, when Ruto came in, one of the things that were occupying his brain most of the time was this issue of doing away with the flying squad, which will kill people and dump them in Rivayala, and the police high-handedness, etc., which he successfully did away with. Okay? But as he was doing that, Ruto made a mistake which I saw. And I'm like, this guy is real stupid. For one reason. Ruto said that I want a proactive opposition that will keep me in check. That was a wrong statement to say politically. You can't approach politics with fundamentalist idea. You cannot. Idealism, you cannot. Politics is very relative. That is why when he realized in 2024, June 25th, that things were going south, he was marooned. I can tell you literally. He was marooned. And what happened then? He made calls desperately to the people who could come in and support him. Now, at this moment, I think it was 2 in the afternoon, and these gentlemen and ladies, very patriotic, of course, nothing is wrong with them, were advancing because Parliament was not listening, and they went into Parliament, which is very right for me, by the way, because if Parliament doesn't listen, they have the right. Chapter 1 of the Constitution, sovereignty belongs to the people, okay? Now, when Ruto realized, from Parliament to State House is 500 meters, literally. These guys will storm State House. So what did he do? Of course, the people around him must have told him some things. And people around the president do a lot of bad things. One of them initiated that KDF moves from the barracks and we end up any support in Parliament. And we saw it in the documentary from BBC. And they shot people.
Yeah.
That was wrong. Okay?
Yeah.
And there are so many wrong things that have happened since that time. The abductions, etc. Very, very wrong. But what is the essence of what they're doing? I'll tell you.
Of what who is doing?
Of what the government is doing. If you read this book properly, an introduction to African politics, okay, you will understand that the first or the primary instinct of any government is survival.
Okay.
Okay? So if a government is threatened, the first thing they will do is to seek how can they survive one more minute. And so desperation calls for desperate measures. And these guys called for who? For the strongest man who was there then. Who is who? The former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, to come and support him. Because once Raila Odinga was not part of that demonstration loses steam straight away. And that is exactly what he did. And he went for that. So he stabilized, okay? Then we've had these cases going on. Now this is where Ruto needs to crack the whip. Because there are idiots around him. These people, I said, the two factions. Now the other faction of those who don't understand prudence in politics. Kibaki was a gentleman in politics. Perhaps you may never know that when Kibaki was coming to power in 2002, this man had the ideal state of Kenya. He even gave us the Vision 2030. Until when the Kikuyu elites lied to him that he needs to hold power. Because for them it was renaissance from Kenyatta's time. Okay? Now there's some idiots again around Ruto who are having some renaissance from Moi's time. Okay? Now they have found, this is the moment to come up again. And they're coming up with the same old ideas which were applicable then, but not now. Now they're doing all the bad things.
And this is what I find very funny with this country, that we are always blaming that Moi is a very good guy. Moi brought us milk. Moi used to love children. The people around Moi were terrible. I mean, they made Moi look bad, and that is Biwott, that is, Jirongo, and all those other guys who were surrounding him. And then we have Kibaki, and now we are talking about the Kikuyu elite. Now we had Ruto, we had Uhuru, we are talking about the Kikuyu
continuation of Kikuyu elite. Yeah.
And now we have Ruto, and now we have gone back to Farouk. I mean, it is like, okay, so why are you president then? If everybody around you is making you look bad.
Yeah.
How? Because I do not think that Ruto is the kind of person. Ruto is a very interesting fella. He knows what he's doing. Ruto is very, very strategic and very intentional in the things he wants to do. And I do not believe that somebody like Farouk is going to chart the route for Ruto.
Can I ask you a question?
And I don't think that that somebody like Murkomen is going. As a matter of fact, there is a time that they were so loud on Twitter, and at some point somebody told them to shut up, and they have been shutting up from then on. So I think that we are cutting Ruto flack that we should not cut him.
I agree.
He knows everything that is going on, and this is somebody that is perhaps now leading some of the most profitable companies in this country. If in agriculture, in infrastructure, in steel, in engineering, whatever, I think he's now surpassed even our former prime minister, who was to be the gas guy. So I think that let us not claim that there is something that you wanted to ask me.
I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
What do you understand by the formation of a government? What is a government?
Well, we know that the government has got different. I think you are talking about the deep.
Leave the textbook definition. Let me tell you, a government is the president and the people he listens to.
Yes.
End of statement.
Exactly.
So tell me, in this presidency or in this government, who does Ruto listen to?
Can we talk about the listening?
Of course, now that's the point.
So can we talk,
that's what I was coming to.
Yes, can we talk about the listening then? So for example, if you were to name 3 people that Ruto is listening to right now, who are they?
There are 3 people.
Okay.
One is the chief of staff.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Actually, there are 4.
Who is the chief of staff?
The chief of staff is called Koskei.
Koskei.
Yeah, a very intelligent man. He's been in civil service for quite some time. He's been in business. He understands. He's a gentleman. He's somebody I know. 2 is the head of NIS, Nuruddin Haji.
Okay.
Sits with him daily to brief him on what is going on in the country. That's actually one of the most powerful people. Then we have Farouk Kibet. Okay, this is his PA, who he talks to and instructs on what to do here and there. Okay, and this is the person who has his best interest at heart politically.
Okay.
All these other people are government-ish. Okay.
Yeah, civil servant-ish.
Yeah, the civil servant-ish. They are institutional. But this guy is with him. When he leaves government, this guy will be with him. This Farouk Kibet guy. Okay. Then lastly, we have the military intelligence chief or the chief of general staff in the military. These people are the ones who the president listens to. Anything out of that.
So anything going wrong with this country
must be pointed to these people.
Yes. And the question is,
yes,
once Ruto has sat down, because he doesn't drink alcohol, once he has sat down and drank tea with this gentleman,
yes,
and then he sees the news the next day, what does he say about what he was told?
I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you another question.
Yes.
You're a married man, right?
Yes.
Are you often surprised by some things in your house that happen?
Yeah, of course.
So what's different from Ruto getting surprised?
But then being surprised is a different thing. But when you wake up tomorrow and get surprised, what do you do?
Exactly.
I think that's the question that I don't feel like we are answering.
Okay.
It's like, what is his responsibility?
Yes. Is to lead the nation.
I think you are talking from a point of theory. That's fine. And a point of, I think you a point of, what is it, intellectual politics, I guess, is what I would call it. And I think I lean more on the ideals of what keeps a nation running. So how, when we talk about people being killed on the streets, right, today, people are out in the streets. When we are consistently seeing these images on our screens, something is happening to us as a people. That cannot be, the beginning and end of that cannot be Ruto and the 4 people.
Thank you.
50 million people's lives, the direction in which this country is going to go, cannot be pegged on Ruto and the 4 people.
Thank you. I wanted to
That
remove
is
you.
one.
I wanted to remove you.
That is my first
I
point.
wanted to remove you from thinking that the presidency ends with everything that is happening, every little thing. No. The ultimate responsibility sits with him. But there are line ministers who are in charge. There are line officers who are in charge. There are line managers. For example, let me just answer you.
Okay.
Because you've asked a question which you're finishing. But let me answer this one.
Okay.
You've asked a very fundamental question, and I want to answer you fully.
Yeah.
It is very sad that we are losing young people in the streets every other day.
Yeah.
And this is due to police and professionalism. Police and professionalism.
Yeah.
Nothing else. We cannot take it out of that. Because there is somebody in the forces who is pressing this button. Okay? And if you listen to IG Kanja, twice he has said, the person who is abducting this gentleman is not within our ranks. And we actually confirmed this person was not within his ranks of the police. It's a formation, yes, but not under his command, because police has a command. So it means, just like in Tanzania today, there is a faction that is under a different command from the police command. Yes, they are officers, but they're illegally there. Okay? So they're being used to do what? To terrorize people or to maintain the polity.
And abduct Kina Mwangi.
And abduct Kina Mwangi. Okay? The same is happening here. We have a faction of the police which is not declared, because they're not even declaring themselves that when they come to arrest somebody. Unlike the one for Ojwang, for example, where the DCI officers went and identified themselves. Say, we are officers, this is my badge number, we've come to arrest your son, A, B, C, and D. The rest are not happening like that. Okay? And I will come back to this issue of Ojwang to tell you how it is a setup. Bad setup. Okay?
Bad setup for whom?
For DIG Lagat. I will tell you with certainty.
Setup.
I'll pinpoint for you how it has happened. Okay?
I mean,
I will pinpoint for you.
Let her finish with the question that she was asking.
Yes. Do you feel answered that yes, there's a faction that is misbehaving within the police ranks?
So, but then,
so we just need to face this guy who is misbehaving.
So here's the thing. I think there is it's a tension, right? It's like you're holding two things and it's very tight.
Yes.
You need to make sure one does not fall.
Correct.
Everything needs to remain at par, right?
Correct.
Because we are saying that Ruto, I'm still asking the question which has not been answered on this set. What is the responsibility of Ruto? What is his responsibility today?
What is the role of the president?
That's fine. Let's start there. That's a question that I want us to talk about.
Okay.
When the country is the way it is looking.
Okay.
Perhaps you could answer it.
I have another question. Wait. So Ruto does not have enough power, whatever it is, to figure out who these people that are not official police are that are doing bad things in the country. The same man can wake up today and say, I want to build houses. Nataka kuingia biashara ya construction. Tufanye aje? Let us put a law, make it happen. Within how long? How long did it take for housing levy to become law? After court returned it, and then they returned back, and then back and forth, and then back and forth, and then now it becomes law.
Okay.
Now me, as a citizen of this country today, I am paying for 1,000 houses that are being built for who? For 50 million Kenyans, which is not even logical. But let's go there. It looks like there's some sort of pretense.
Yeah.
That do you have power or do you not have power? That's the question.
Ruto has power.
So why is it that these rogue and unofficial people can be doing these things, and all that he does is donate money and give speeches? I am sick and tired of people with power consistently giving us speeches. Unaongea nini? Sit down, put your house in order. That is why we wake up to vote. I'm
genuinely sorry for how you feel, and very many other Kenyans feel the same way.
Yeah.
Now, I came here to help understand how politics really works. I believe that's the reason. Because I can decide to go into the pop culture and sync with the people and say, oh, this bad thing is happening, etc. Yeah, of course, we all know bad things are happening.
Do you think that Ruto is a man that has got having so many dogs around him, going about and doing the things that they think that he think is right, and they think that their owner is going to appreciate? That turns out and saying, like, you just beat somebody in the streets. I didn't say you do that. Another one is on the other side killing a lamb, and I don't know what's going on. Do you think that he's somebody that is sitting with a lot of rogueness around him, or he doesn't know how to deal with it?
when you sharpen a lot of knives and you don't know how to keep them, at times they end up scratching you and you keep them in the pocket. Okay, you need to know where to keep your knives.
Please don't keep the knives in your pocket.
Once you sharpen knives, and that's how it behaves. Like you sharpen a razor blade and you keep it without its case in the pocket, you'll definitely have scratches. And Ruto is a victim of such situations. And I can tell you, of course, Ruto could decide today to whip away Farouk Kibet, because I'm quite certain in my mind that Farouk Kibet is quite aware of some things that are happening. But also, he could not be aware of some others. Like, for example, the one for Ojwang. Of course, then clearly, anybody can see that this was a clear setup.
You're going to tell us how that is a setup.
I'll tell you. Yeah. Now, when it comes to responsibility, yes, Ruto has the final responsibility of shaping up this country the way it should go. Okay, when we're talking about abduction of youths, killing of youths in the streets, etc., he has the power to just recall that, because now he's aware of it, the club that does the abduction. Okay, he's aware of it. It is there, it is true. We know, those of us who are in politics, we understand it. Because when we were in opposition, having worked in the house of Odinga, we know that those people are there, we even know them by name. Okay, and Ruto knows, and he even admitted in Homa Bay, that is going to stop these abductions. So on that, he needs to rein in on them and tell them, hey guys, it's not business as usual. Let's stop this nonsense. And that is okay. The National Intelligence Service can help in stabilizing the national security of this country. Getting these guys, talking with them in communicado, but not hurting them, it's okay, it happens. There are black spots everywhere, black centers all over the world. CIA even has a black operation place in Kenya that we even don't know. Somebody is caught in America who is trying to destabilize them, is brought here, is talked to in a nice way, and is taken back, or is repurposed, okay? But not murdered. Murder is wrong, okay? But also, let me tell you something about power. Power is absolute. And absolutism has no virtue. Absolutism is full of vices, because it's either the thing that you want or zero. And as I've told you, a government such as this one, which is in transition, it's sitting at Kenya's very key moment, where we are leaving the big boys, and now we are bringing power to, your son can be a president, you can be a president, Jagiro's son can be a president, even he can be a president today, okay? That is where we are moving to. Now, when you're moving to that state, then a lot of things are happening, and people are trying to stop other things and accept new formations. And that is where we are at now. And we must accept that, yes, Ruto has overseen for the past 2-3 years a very rogue regime, very true. But moving forward, can he do better? Yes, he can do better. I will not wish a fellow man to get out of power and just disappear because of something which is not clear. Uhuru murdered many people than Ruto. What are you guys saying? Uhuru murdered more people than Ruto.
Ruto was in that government, let me remind you that.
Powerless. Extremely powerless.
So then why was he there?
Extremely powerless.
So why was he there?
In fact, he was subdued in that regime. Okay? He was subdued. The only thing Ruto had, he had these people in the right places who were going to grow. By the time 2022 was hitting point, his guys had grown in the government.
So he spent 8 years campaigning.
No, he spent 8 years.
He did.
He spent 8 years strategizing on how to move Kenya forward. Okay?
How to move Kenya forward.
Okay, so
Kenya has been on the wrong path. Okay, you guys, Kenya has been on the wrong path.
So now,
I want to talk about, because you've talked about the police, and I think this is a key moment to talk about the police.
Yeah.
And I do not completely buy the narrative that I do not completely buy the narrative that it's just a few rogue agents. I think even the psychology of our policing is wrong. The impunity on the roads, even by a traffic cop. Like, there's no, we're not fighting over anything. You're on the road to make sure traffic, me, I'm in the car, we are going. What is it? Now, why are we at war? What is the problem? I think there's a fundamental problem with the mindset of how we police and how we implement security in this country. And that is something that needs to change. That's a problem. We need to articulate it. I don't think it's as simple as some few bad apples are making this thing go bad. I think we have a very complicated relationship with power as the people of this country. Nikipewa kidogo hivi, ukinipea kidogo tu hivi. Now even me, now I'm like, I am throwing my weight around. And then you take that mindset and arm it with guns and with all of these things, artillery.
Yeah. It becomes very powerful. It's absolute.
It's terrible. We can't live in a country
and that's what I was saying.
And so for me, and I think we need to talk about the fact that this thing for police reforms, how is it that since I don't know how young I was, I started hearing police reform, police reform, police reform. How hard is it? What is it going to take for this country to reform fundamentally the mindset? I don't think it's a toa huyu mpeleke huku sijui, those shenanigans and theater that they do there. Fundamentally reform the mindset. What is that going to take?
What is the mindset of the police?
Exactly.
Officers?
Impunity. I have power, and there's nothing you can do.
I can't do anything. So how do you transform?
On Friday,
how do you transform that? How do you transform that?
Mindset shift.
Like how? Like specifically, you take them into a conference hall. Like what exactly?
What's a mindset shift here? NGO, the conference.
That's what it feels like when I hear you talk.
No, that's not what.
Like what are you going to do specifically? Because when we introduced CBC, we took teachers back to school.
Wachana na CBC, because there's so many problems with CBC.
Let me tell you
yes.
how to move from where we are. Of course, she has a point in terms of changing the mindset of the police. I would call it the philosophy of the police. What is the guiding philosophy today?
Yeah.
The guiding philosophy is that the police protects the state or protects the government. Okay, and so that should change from a police force mentality to a police service mentality. And we began by anchoring some bit of it in the Constitution by first saying that there is a command structure that is clear and giving police its independence. Because once the police has its independence, then there's some level of autonomy to make decisions on their own, which as much as they favor the government, but favors also the common man.
We have branches of the government. The police fall on which one?
The police does not fall under any. The police is now an independent formation. Okay? Yeah. Yes, it is closely working with the executive. Okay? But it's a very independent formation.
What do you mean closely working with the executive?
Closely because I tell you why.
Because you can't claim it is closely working with.
And then again it is independent.
What relationship does it have with the executive?
Of course, that's why I said closely.
Yeah.
Okay? It's independent but interdependent. Sasawa.
What makes it interdependent?
Because
we have to talk about the dependency, and then we have to talk about the autonomy.
And it's not only close. Good. Now let's go about that.
Yes.
Now the operation of the police, the operation work, command, etc., is independent. It does not receive commands from the executive anymore. No. Ideally, actually, let me put it like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Ideally, it does not get its command from the executive. Okay. In fact, they have the capacity to say no to unlawful orders. Are you aware? That is why today you are seeing some of them being arraigned.
That is why.
Okay.
That is why I'm asking you.
Yes.
We have the interior minister who is
Murkomen.
Who is Murkomen?
Who sits in the executive?
Yes, and then we have the one for internal affairs. Correct.
The interior and the national administration is the one who oversees the police. That's of course true.
Yeah. So how does Murkomen work hand in hand with the police?
So now let me explain to you.
Yes.
That's a beautiful point. In fact, I wanted to answer in a question that she asked. Now, Murkomen or the cabinet secretaries, their work is policy and stewardship.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Policy.
Yeah.
Policy
why he's busy giving us
what is policy? What is policy?
Policy is the guiding principle about how you organize anything. Course. It's like the policy, like if we were to say that.
What is your guiding
principle? Specificities in terms of how Murkomen,
for example,
maps out policy for the police.
For example, let me help you. For example, if you watched yesterday, Murkomen was giving out a policy guideline on how they're going to move forward on the issue of CCTVs. Yes, some police stations have CCTVs, but it is not anchored in policy anywhere.
Yeah.
They're just having it as a precaution. Okay? But now it is now law. It's going to be required to be law.
But that is the problem I'm having with you right there. When Mr. Murkomen said that each and every
police station
is going to have a CCTV,
that is a policy.
It did not look like a policy. It looked like an instruction.
Okay, now you get it wrong.
It sounded like instruction.
No, it's not instruction. Yeah, it is a policy direction. It's a directive.
It's a directive.
Yeah.
But I think I get what you're saying, and for me, it's the problem with all these speeches.
Yeah.
Why?
Odhiambo is lying.
I'm not lying. What do you mean?
Lying.
What do you mean?
But he hasn't finished his point.
The tone of Murkomen's tone is not a policy tone when I heard it yesterday. It was actually directing the police to start installing. How long does it take you to come up with the policy? Because when was Ojwang killed?
About a week ago.
Okay, so we are assuming that the Ministry of Interior has sat down and formulated a policy. Do you think they have done that?
Yes, of course.
In how long?
I would hope
I have helped in producing policies for this regime and for other regimes before. I have helped. And I can tell you, you can wake up in the morning and call for the technical team, a technical working group, and by evening, you have a policy out, a policy draft out, and you take it for acceptance, for validation. Okay?
Where?
Within the balance of power where it needs to be taken. For example, in the police, you need to call the National Security committee from Parliament to sit and look, is this thing doable? Okay? Then you go and pronounce and say, this is a directive. Now I am asking National Assembly, like Murkomen did.
So I guess the question is, so how has this process happened? I guess that's the question.
He initiated it yesterday.
He initiated
the process.
Is there a document?
Of course, there's a document.
Where is it?
It's there with the police. You want to go and get it.
Where is it?
It is at the Ministry of Interior. It is a public document.
We also have a problem of government comms. So because you work with government,
I don't work with government.
or whatever it is, comms in the government, ni kama wapo.
I'm seeking for protection.
When they improve their communication.
You work with the government.
Okay, in making policies. But anyway, this is the point I want to say.
Right. I'll be proud to work with government.
Nani, can I speak?
Wait, because I was saying something and you people don't want to stop to laugh. What? Can I finish what I was saying?
Can I finish?
Who is finishing? And I was the one who was talking. Who you?
Okay, so you go ahead.
It's a problem with communications of all of these processes, because also and maybe this idea of transition, whatever that you've brought into the on the table is interesting and important, because it also means that there's an opportunity for the electorate to be educated, and that starts with a little bit more transparency. So ukikuja kama Murkomen, can we have somewhere where everybody can go and see this thing that you're saying? Because it just feels like you're just saying things, and I think that's the question, is like, so has the process happened? Because then if it is only for the people within those ranks and circles to know that is what has happened, without it, because also he doesn't stop and say, oh yeah, the XYZ and person, this is the document, this is where it is available. CEO of whichever company, when that is happening, everybody has access, everybody knows the process, there is transparency. So why is there no transparency? And I think it's part of like a deliberate effort to keep the electorate down.
I don't think if in this particular question it's an issue of transparency. No. Well, first of all, I need to understand.
What is the issue?
I need to understand that in the operation of a government, the government first will release a policy directive like he did. Now, once the executive initiates, it goes to Parliament, or it goes to the specific arms or departments which need to implement it. Okay. For example, we need budget to implement this CTV thing. Murkomen cannot wake up from in his head and say, there's 2 million here, there's 30 billion, it goes to CTV. He cannot. He's not allowed. If he does that, he'll be charged for crime, okay? Because he shall have gone against Public Procurement Act. So, once he says, we need CCTVs, it's a directive, then he said in his statement, I am then requesting Parliament to expedite in budget reallocation for this thing to be realized. And he said, how many years?
2 years.
It is very practical, because equipping 1,000 and something police stations is huge. Equipping Nairobi CCTV was, 12 billion shillings.
Why do they need the CCTV, by the way?
They need it because of what happened. Because at times tragedy helps us learn, okay? And here we learned something very key, that actually police could participate in the murder of a citizen or of a suspect in their custody. That is unbelievable. It's even unthinkable.
You know the problem. You know the problem I have with CCTVs in Kenyan police cells and Kenyan police stations is just one. I think it is a step that is unnecessary.
It is very necessary.
It is not, because this is why I think it is necessary. These people are bundled in the same room, 10 by 10 room, and that is where they poo. And that is where they pee.
Have you been to a cell?
How? Yes. How are they going to put a CCTV in there?
They didn't say to put a CCTV in the cell.
But that is where he was killed.
They didn't say to put a CCTV in the cell.
So
I want that to be clear first of all.
So where are they going to put it?
Now, for example, the case of Ojwang yesterday.
Yeah.
Let's analyze it, okay?
Okay.
If you go to Central Police Station, there is a toilet towards the end, and there's a cell opposite it. Okay? It's called a solitary cell, apart from the main space, of course. Okay? I've not been jailed there, but I've been to it and I know it. Now, some people, these three mabusus, who took the gentleman Ojwang from the main cell and took him to this solitary cell and started hitting him there real hard. Yeah? You don't need to see, because that's privacy. Somebody is maybe...
Yes.
That's where they sleep.
Yes.
But there's no harm. In Ecuador or some country, I don't know, where this funny guy is the president, he's put CCTVs in the prisons, including the toilets or something like that. There's no harm in putting CCTV even in that nini. The only place you shouldn't put CCTV, of course, is where they're showering and where they're pooing. But just to show the traffic in and out. So we know.
And you can put it in a
hidden place.
Where it only captures certain angles.
Yes, like for example, where Ojwang was murdered. If we had CCTV, of course there's a CCTV. There is. We've all confirmed the CCTV. If we retrieve that footage, we will see who took Ojwang inside and who came out with him. Now, if they took him inside...
Do you want to tell me that the police does not know who did this?
They know, even as we know.
So the problem is not the CCTV.
The problem is not the CCTV.
What we are cutting is this time that we are wasting between arresting and confirm, because they're lying to us. We don't want lies.
Who is lying?
The police.
The police or the government?
The police. The police are lying. It is somebody called the spokesperson who wrote a fake statement and said that guy hit him, he said on the wall. If you had the CCTV, we'll just see. We'll just retrieve and see, did he actually hit himself on the wall?
No. But would they make it public? I think that's also the question.
I don't think we need to know.
In the policy,
we need to know that he hit his head
in the policy,
on the wall.
In the policy directive.
There is autopsy.
Of course, yes.
Which will tell us that he did not. So if he did not, then who was the police that was in?
Exactly.
That was there during this
exactly.
hour?
So how do we
them in?
So how do we reach this police? How do we get this police? This TV will tell us.
No, we don't need a CCTV to know who was there.
We need a list, a registry.
You will know.
But then my question again maybe is that there was an issue of CCTV footage tampering.
Yes, why are they tampering with it? It's evidence.
Yes.
So then we don't need a CCTV.
So then I guess the point that Jags is trying to make is that the CCTV is not going to solve the problem of the corruption that is in the police service.
Because there is a CCTV at the hospital, which they said was saying the wrong time.
No, it's not saying the wrong time. You're saying the right time.
But the CCTV of the hospital has shown us, and it brought an important thing.
Yes, let's not deviate from the main point.
Which is,
one, CCTV helps us to get the evidence, okay?
Yes.
Which is important,
and
of showing us who.
Assuming that it is going to be available. So that's the problem.
Now, in that police directive, you didn't let me finish. In that police directive that Murkomen gave, he said, these CCTVs must have external backup.
Cloud.
Which means cloud, okay? It means
at Safaricom.
Okay? It means Jagero's network.
They can delete it.
No. Safaricom is very repeatable. It's very repeatable. It could be at Jagero's network. You could be given a tender. She could be given a tender to do that. Okay. Now that backup is important. Then he said again in that police directive that malfunction of the CCTV must be reported within how many hours? 1 hour. Go read that statement. Go read. He said you must report it within 1 hour, the OCS. And in case it is tampered with, the OCS will be held personally liable for any mishap in his police station. In fact, the OCS now is the most powerful person in this country.
I think
that's a very important directive.
I think, Mr. Odhiambo,
yeah,
that we are very reactionary government.
Very reactionary people.
Because if we are talking about CCTV in the police cells, can we talk about body cameras on the streets?
That is nice.
Which I think has been tabled, but there's a lot of resistance.
There's no resistance.
So this is
the bill?
This is a government.
Where is the bill? Where is it?
Somebody that has been killed,
but government react like that,
claiming that they want the names and the identities of these people,
Jagero,
while somebody is tabling for them a body camera and they are not agreeing to it.
Who has tabled a bill on having body cameras? We should not even have it should not even be a bill. It's something that Murkomen can do by yesterday. He can say, hey, apart from these CCTVs, police must wear body cameras. I believe you know why we have the number 911 in America.
Yeah.
It came after the 9/11 thing.
Yes.
Okay? And it was very transformational, and it is working to date. That now emergency response is within between 1 to 7 minutes.
We
The
also
police
don't
will
have
be-
a 911 in Kenya.
Now, we will not just hit the moment, because this country is a lot of laxity and issue of resources, of course, yeah? But
Resources.
we will be there.
Resources.
Why
Yes.
do we have advisors of the president being paid 10 billion a year?
Yeah,
we don't
it's
have
not-
resources.
we don't have an issue-
Prioritization.
We don't have an issue with resources.
Prioritization of these resources, okay? Prioritization of these
Okay,
resources.
can we finish by talking about you saying that somebody was setting up Lagat?
Thank you.
Because
Let's have that one, yeah.
Let's
That's an
have the
interesting one.
conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the conversation I love
And
best.
I want to
Because it gives the political mockery.
even before you say it, I want us to have this conversation in whatever the story is, whoever is being set up, etc., how power is being brokered, and somebody's life has been lost as a result of that. So it's demanding of that, of the, what is it called? The somberness of that moment. Yes. It's not a political thing. Endelea.
First of all, Albert comes from my constituency, which I will lead someday in the future. And of course, nobody would wish for any human being to go through what Albert went through. It is sad, it is very, very painful, and the culprits of this heinous offense must just be brought to book. It's inexcusable. And nobody should play games around the death of Albert. It's very, very painful, okay? And of course, I have to offer my condolences to the family and to every other young Kenyan, because this can happen even to me.
Yeah.
The government changes, it can misbehave with anybody. Now, that said, it is important to note that I want us to exercise common sense in this discussion,
Okay.
so that we get to the bottom of it. DIG Lagat is a very serious person in the police command. We know how covert campaigns have happened in this country, where people have been murdered, we don't know even who has murdered them. Some of them have been done with some very senior people in the government, okay? If truly DIG Lagat wanted this guy dead, he didn't have to report. You and I know that.
he didn't have to.
He didn't have to report.
To complain.
If you wanted this guy disciplined, he didn't have to do whatever he did in terms of going to complain. I first of all must appreciate the civility of Lagat in the first instance of going to complain and saying, hey, my name is being spoiled here. I think I need some action taken. And then policemen are dispatched from Nairobi to go to Kisii.
After the complaint. After his complaint.
After his complaint.
Can I ask you a question before you continue? I've seen people circulating there's a headline that people say that is what Albert reshared, or maybe that was his source of information. So I guess the question is, why was Albert picked if other people as well were sharing that same information? Why if you and Jagero publish something about me, why would I pick you and not pick Jagero? Sibasi, I round you up, all of you, if I have a problem. If I report all of you.
That was my second point, that this was another operation mishap. Why? I'm not a security expert, but I'll tell you. That crime that I was once arrested for misuse of Computer Act or something like that. Okay? It was already done away with. It is not even functional. But he was arrested on that premise, which is already wrong. Whatever Albert allegedly was doing, which I don't believe he did, because I'll tell you what he did. If at all he did it, it's a civil matter.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's
a civil matter. It's not criminal.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, two, let's go to the substance of the issue. Did Albert understand where he found himself? No. Albert is too innocent, even in his death today. He's innocent. He does not know what he was doing. Whatever happened to him, he found himself there. Why? This Pixel Pioneer account was being run by 3 other people.
Yeah. I heard it certainly.
If you look at Facebook account of this fellow, the late Albert, you will find that he was pro-Sakaja. But he's where? In Malindi. And he came home. How was he propagating Sakaja issues, number one? Okay? So it means he could have been hired, because we in communication do these things. We often hire a team of people to help us push agenda. So he could have been hired to be part of a team that helps in pushing an agenda. Okay? So we could have a page that is run by different admins. And the same was happening to Pixel Pioneer. Because the first point of contact where these DCI officers went to was not Kabondo, my home area. No. They went to Kisii. To somebody called Moinde in Kisii. It is this Moinde guy who said that this account is run by how many people? 4. One of them is Albert. The other 2 were in Nairobi. Or one was in Machakos. A lady and a gentleman. Yeah? So they left Kisii after picking this guy and putting him in, this Moinde guy. And went
Kisii?
to in Kisii.
They picked the Moinde guy.
They picked him.
Wakamwacha Kisii.
No. He was driven to Nairobi as well. Then they picked who? Albert. And was driven to Nairobi. If you hear, out of common sense, how these guys identify themselves. If I want to do away with evidence, I will not leave a trace. But these guys were leaving traces all over, saying, hey, we are officers X, Y, Z. They identified themselves to the father of Albert, and they said, we are so and so. We've come here because our boss has complained that this son of yours anaribu jina yake.
And at this point, we are talking about Lagat.
Yes,
that is
Lagat.
The boss.
Yes. Remember, still at this time, I'm still insisting that it was an operational mishap. This shouldn't have happened. But let's go with it as it happened. So the gentleman is driven all the way to Nairobi, but along the way, he's treated well. As we've heard from even the wife, he was given whatever juice or something. Of course, it's petty, but it's an indicator that it was actually still safe. Now, if you listen to Mukwana, the gentleman who is now incarcerated, he says the OCS tells him that, hey, at 8, what were DCI wanaleta mtu hapo, inafaa akuwe disciplined kidogo. And Mukwana goes ahead and asks the OCS, is it, na ikienda vibaya means what if he dies? Okay? And he's told, usipofanya hivyo unajua wewe ni junior. Kitu inaweza kufanyikia. Something can happen to you. What does that mean? You're being intimidated that you have to implement. Now, remember, DCI brought this guy straight from Homa Bay to where? To Nairobi, and handed him over to Central Police.
Talam.
Yeah? To Talam. Now, up to that moment, excuse Lagat. I'm begging you, excuse Lagat, because he will be an idiot, and Lagat, you will be an idiot to have known that this thing was going to happen, and you are actually proceeding with it. Now, the shift comes at when this Jama comes to where? Comes to Central. You and
the
I.
The person who is apparently from
Homa Bay. The DCI guys have come. They've handed him over to Central Police. Now, remember, as they were coming, there was already a notification that kuna mtu anakuja nafaa kuwe disciplined. Discipline here means beating. I've been in a police cell. I know what happens. At times you're beaten. Okay? They hire people inside there. Somebody can even, like I remember the time I was arrested in Kisumu, quickly, there's a gentleman, mtoto alikuwa ameiba pesa ya mama yake. And the mother didn't want him to go to court. Alikuwa anataka aseme tu pesa ilikuwa wapi. So when he was brought to the cell where I was, alifungwa pingu nyuma, and he was forced to lie on his front for about 2-3 hours. It is painful. I tried that thing, just imagine what that guy was going through. It is painful. And he had to say. And he was released. Okay? So let's say, these guys were toying with sin. Okay? And this is what I'm saying. This is where the conspiracy now comes in. At the point where Talam is talking to Mukwana and telling him that he has received a directive from who? You and I don't have the evidence. That it is DCI Lagat who said, beat this guy. Okay? And if at all he gave that order, again, DCI Lagat, I'll tell you, you are stupid. That is wrong. But I hope he didn't do it. Okay? So at this moment, I'm suspecting he would be stupid at his level to say, mpige huyo jamaa, knowing so well that this jamaa could die. Okay? But let's say he did it for this case. The order is given, the gentleman, the mabusus are bought for alcohol, beer, and 2,000 shillings, and they beat this guy to pulp. And before they realize this guy is dead. Okay? Very, very sad. And I'm saying, if Lagat did this, Mukwana, Talam, and the operation command know what to do. They know that at this moment, it is between them and their God. And their families. They'll have to sink Lagat. Okay? But if, and you will bear me witness if this case is over, or when this case is over, you will not find a place where Lagat gave instruction that this guy be murdered. There is no place, there is no instruction There's no police signal. There's nowhere.
So then,
and this is where.
So then the question is, do you think that this is somebody that was supposed to be disciplined and then let go, but the discipline went awry and he died, or somebody said, go kill this person so that we can blame Lagat? And if that is the reason, then why would they want to sink Lagat?
There are two scenarios.
Yeah.
And the scenarios you've given are the exact scenarios. Scenario one is that Lagat could have said, let's say for the purposes of convenience.
Yes.
He could have said, hey, oh jamaa mintusi sana, sitaki kufanya kesi na yeye.
Yeah.
Mgonge kidogo alafu kesho mumwache aende.
Yeah.
Okay? That in my view, it is wrong legally, but well, in the practical issues of the world, they happen. These things happen.
Yes, exactly.
So if
I agree that they happen.
Yeah, they happen. So if that was the case, fair enough. Wangepigwa then kesho aseme tumeachana na yeye, alikuwa amepigwa tu kidogo ameenda. But now it didn't happen. Now that is where Talam and this fellow and these Monikis and who are in charge cannot escape. Why? They have to tell us who sent them to do what they did. Because what does it take to punish somebody? If you want to punish somebody, si nikutoa belt na kuchapa.
Yes.
Or ni kuchuna.
But why? The other question is, why was he being driven to Nairobi?
Yeah.
Oh, no, of course, that's an operational mishap. I said at the beginning of my statement that there are operational mishaps that have happened. In my view, this case was too small, didn't deserve the attention of Nairobi. Ili kunapeleka Homa Bay, tomorrow magistrate's court, but being in court for 1 year, mention every day, it is too expensive, it is too tiresome, it is too torturing. It is too much. They will have just let this issue die, okay? But the mistake has happened. Now we're dealing with it as it is. So now he's here, and Mukwana and Talam cannot escape. And Moniki, the guys who murdered this guy, cannot escape. And this is where now my theory, and I say my theory, not anybody's theory, comes in. The question is, who does the death of Albert Ojwang benefit most, politically?
Gachagua.
Thank you.
That's what comes to my mind.
If you want to, in the analysis,
and I think theoretically it benefits Gachagua
more than anybody else.
But also, how? I mean,
Yeah, I wonder
how?
But
Because for me the assumption was that it is going to further, bring division in Luoland, because this guy was just there the other day, and most of the Homa Bayans, filled the stadium to sing his name.
I love your intelligence.
Yes, and then now, Alu has been killed right from Homa Bay. So then, do you think that Gachagua is saying, or people around Gachagua is saying, that look, we told you this guy is not nice. You can sing for him the whole night, but when he wakes up tomorrow, he's gonna kill you. And then how does that? What does that give him?
I've sat in very privileged places, and Jagero, that I am not a man on the street. You know me very well. I've sat in privileged instances where I have listened to conversations that occurred, okay? And I can tell you without a doubt that the death of Albert Ojwang, as sad as it is, somebody realized a gap in the process and took advantage. And if Talam is bold enough, let him reveal his sponsors. Let him tell us who told him to discipline this guy. Let him tell us.
Testimony yesterday, did he not say that the instructions were coming from Lagat?
He said that the OCS told him that Lagat said. How many times has your name been used? How many times has your name been used when you're not there? People can use your name.
Okay.
So
that's not admissible.
It is not admissible because it is hearsay. Okay?
I think that Gachagua might be taking advantage of the aftermath.
Of course. Now, that was my theory too.
But not really.
That was my
instigating.
But
then
not
I
really,
also wonder,
that was my theory too.
How would they have known that they would find him in Homa Bay as opposed to Malindi, where he lives?
Thank you. Because in this country we have, you remember I told you that
I think it is a fodder for Gachagua and his people rather than his engineering.
Let me answer.
Or like they're just using it as
let me answer you. These guys knew where Albert was because they were told by Moinde that Albert is in Homa Bay, Carbon, and they did triangulation. They used the Safaricom does triangulation through the boosters.
But Safaricom said they were not involved.
They are involved.
Safaricom waliandika statement wakasema them they don't know what that is.
I have been in situations again of privilege where somebody asked, nipe lock. Lock means location of person XYZ. Even you, I can tell you where you are. at a particular point. If I have somebody in Safaricom, I will. It has happened when I'm there, I know. So those things happen. So Gachagua is benefiting, okay? Whether he's sponsored or not, I'm not saying he's sponsored, but I'm saying...
I think the benefit is huge for him.
The benefit is very huge for him. The political capital is huge because people are now in the street. That is political capital.
Yeah, but what
you cannot joke with it. So what I'm saying, Talam needs to tell us, if he is bold enough, Talam needs to tell us who is his sponsor. Who told him?
Who gave the call?
Yes, who gave the call for him to murder?
Is he not going to be arraigned in court? He's going to be arraigned.
He's going to be arraigned, and I'm saying he needs to be bold and say that.
But do we really need to know his sponsors in order to attack him?
Look, if he says,
do we need
in order to
in order to arrest to arrest?
The question here is that
in order for him to answer this,
was DIG Langat present, or is he present in this case? And I'm saying, in my view, until Talam says, I absolve him. Until Talam says, nilipata order kutoka kwa DIG Langat, nimuue huyu jamaa, I absolve him. But if Talam says today...
What is he saying today?
He's not talking. He's quiet in the cells. He's not talking. Let him come out and say, the order of disciplining, quote unquote, came from Lagat. Sawa, let Lagat step aside, resign. He's in danger, great danger. That's why he cannot expose his contact. Let him do so. And tomorrow I'll come back here and apologize and say, hey guys, I was wrong about this. Lagat was involved. Let him be arraigned and let him go to prison. But until Talam says...
Okay,
Talam is the one.
Okay, Sawa. So you're saying that like now do you not think that the public demand for Lagat to step aside, step down, step over, step down, whatever,
step under,
wherever he is stepping, that it's a valid thing because he's the one that has been named at the moment?
Conscious.
Or how do we deal with that publicly, because this is a public outcry?
Conscious.
Sawa. People are dealing deals under the table as we cannot see it, but we can see the outcome, and it's painful and it's devastating for the young people of this country, right? Your conversation, the phone call that Albert made rounds, just like what? Ako like nitakuwa safe. Uko kuna kwanga aje? Seems like
he's talking to who? When?
He's talking to his friend.
When?
On his way, akiambiwa anapelekwa Central. They had arrived in Nairobi, but he hadn't been taken.
They did not take his phone.
No.
You're given a phone.
That's what means a setup.
Yeah.
The guy had his phone.
The whole thing does not look like an abduction. An abduction.
It
was an
abducted.
arrest.
No, he wasn't abducted.
Yeah, it was an arrest.
DCI did not know what was going to befall this guy.
Exactly, they didn't know.
Yeah, he wasn't abducted.
But why were they driving him to Nairobi?
That is my question. So the question is, so politically motivated or not, whatever it is,
yes,
whoever was trying to sink Lagat,
yes, or who,
however, all of those things that are
why
happening,
would anybody want to sink Lagat?
all we are seeing,
I will tell you, it is the Inspector General succession. If you want the story, call me another time.
You put it.
Nani is leaving before 2027. Kanja is leaving before 2027. The next person who's going to take over was who? Lagat. If Lagat's name is soiled, Lagat is not going to take over.
Who takes over?
There's Bungei. There's Bungei. There's somebody called Seda somewhere there.
Yeah.
Okay? There's some junior Kikuyu officers also there who want to take over. We know them. They've been in this government for over 20 years. They've had stronghold of the intelligence facilities in this country. And now even by Nurdin Haji being the head of NIS, there are two unsettled, titled Kikuyus. Wewe bwana.
So dear.
Everybody deserves a chance on the table. Yeah. Let's talk.
It's fine. Lagat is going to go through due process, and if he gets absolved of that crime,
which due process? Has he been arrested?
He has not been arrested.
So which due process are we talking about?
Let Talam sell him out. Come at Talam.
So there needs to be evidence collected against him for him to be charged.
Yeah.
So he hasn't been charged, but because he holds a senior position,
he bears the responsibility to step aside. That's true. That's right.
Step aside.
He was told to step aside. He voluntarily stepped aside.
Of course, the pressure was there.
For the public pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, my brother. Do you know, without that crown, he's just a normal person. Do you know, today, you were present in this country when Ruto was declared president. I was there at Bomas with my Subaru. Okay? I cried tears. pails and pails.
Why were you crying?
I will tell you one day.
See, he was Kenya Kwanza, I don't know what they were called.
No, we were called Azimio.
Azimio, yeah.
So
Kenya Kwanza ni hawa
I can tell you, once the crown leaves you, wewe ni mwananchi wa kawaida, the power moves. So when Lagat, maybe he imagined that nikitoa hii crown saizi niseme nimeresign, these guys I'll be a scapegoat for breakfast. It will be very easy. So he has to maintain that crown and say, let me step aside. This is the practicality of issues.
People
will be annoyed at me for saying this.
Stepping aside means what, by the way?
Stepping aside means he's not going to participate in the normal day-to-day running of the office, because there are things.
Who is running his office now?
Now there's this deputy, said I have somebody, is some Luo guy who was coming. He has always been there anyway. He's just now acting in that capacity. So why is he stepping, or what is stepping aside? Stepping aside means, Jagger, when you wake up every day, you're coming to your office to work. When you step aside, it means the process of operation, you're not now in charge. There's somebody else who's in charge. And some of them include investigation. Okay? So when he steps aside, it means he cannot be in charge of the investigation. He cannot even exert pressure. Ile ya kuambia mtu, unajua wewe ni junior, something can fanyikia you. He doesn't have that power now. Okay? And Lagat is civilized, guys. Let's cut him some slack. This guy is going to face the law if he is found. If Talam sells him out, that is the only thing I'm crying. Talam, si uonge. Si ako kwa jela. Sema ni nani alinituma.
But it is also his word against Lagat.
So their phone records can be retrieved.
Yeah. So it's like if you guys have talks, where is the
yeah, kama alipigiwa simu. If Lagat called, then Safaricom or whoever network, the government
they
can
do something
compel
right
you.
For once.
Yes, and they can give the recording, and Lagat will be in within no minute.
All right.
Yeah, cut him some slack, man.
I think.
Anyway, that's a theory.
That was nice. So can we end the podcast?
Yeah, we can end the podcast. But before we end the podcast,
yes.
No, I'm not bringing a new hot topic for this one to again. No. No, just.
All right.
I think we are. Anyway, maybe I'm going to ask you this. I think just sitting here with you and having this conversation is just. I guess you have gotten to that point where you are dealing with, I think watu wanaongeanga juu ya kwa ground or whatever. And for my generation and I who are hoping and praying and fighting for a Kenya that is not run as if it's a mob, as if, ni kama ni duka ya mtu. Unaweza mfuta, unaweza fanya hii, you can do whatever you want. A country in which our elected people across board are custodians. They're custodians. Their job is to, in the season that they're in power, they're custodians of the direction that this country is going in. And we hope that we give that in trust. So what is the thing? Knowing the things that you know, having sat in the rooms that you have sat in and had the conversations you've had, and it seems like, we all know this, it's just that we don't know because we've not had it in person, but we know that it's a mob. We know that it's a mob. We know that there's such a thing as deep state, and we know there's people who are running this country, and it's terrible. But we want a better country, because otherwise, why are we here? What are we trying to do? What is the need? How are we going to propagate this country to the next? So the question to you, knowing what you know, having been there, having had all these things, how do we move from where we are, where there's so much angst and so much pain, rightfully so, to a place where the vision that we have for the country can be, at least we start seeing that the country is moving in the direction that we need to be moving in, and starting with the sanctity of human life?
Of course, the president has to rein in his ranks. The rogue people who are around him have to be called to order. He has to put his house in order. So many things are going wrong, which are unnecessarily going wrong, like the shooting of the mask seller today. That is really unnecessary. We don't need to go there. Number two, the police need to understand that we are all in this country, and we are all brothers and sisters. We are related somehow, okay? And this merciless killing. Most of these protesters are very innocent. In any case, it is what we observe today is the police who are always rioting, and the citizens are always just holding placards, scarves, and mobile phones and water. There's nothing much. It's as again today that we've seen that the police or the government have brought in some goons on bikes who are beating the protesters, and the protesters dealt with a few of them. What I can tell you is that, one, the police must realize that there are only 140,000 people in this country. Only 140. Kenyans are 50-something million. They can be outrun. And they must practice conscience or conscious policing. This state does not belong to them. Number two, the president must now take leadership and stop leaving a lot of power, delegating a lot of power to his henchmen who are calling shots here and there. He must really rein on them, and if necessary, the presidency is more important than his friends, in my view, at this moment, because you are only a president once, and then forever you are a former president. And there is no other time that you can prove yourself to be better. This is the time, because from here, he can only go to UN, or he can be a former president who is celebrated like Nelson Mandela. He has the chance to do that by doing the right thing for Kenyans. He came in on a very good ground of economic shift, and how I wish he concentrates on implementing that through proper communication. Because whatever he's doing, of course, the citizens are talking and needs to listen. Because 2027, as I can see, I can tell it will be chaotic, very chaotic. And of course, a win by him or any other person will be a very slim win, very slim. And being that he's done some other illegalities, like for example, today I can tell you, the other day the court passed that they should not gazette the IBC commissioners after the vetting. But it's already gone and done an illegality of gazetting these people, which means it's basically denying the country a chance to have an IBC, because the court will have to set aside that gazette notice. And probably it could collapse the whole process and we start afresh. And that implies that we may not have an election in 2027. These are realities that we are looking at. Deep politics. Also, we've heard of says that the polling, the tallying center will not be in Bomas. Of course, you know why, yeah? Bomas now is under construction by a new investor. We don't know where the new tallying center will be. It could be in Nakuru. It could be anywhere. These are things that inspire a lot of doubt amongst the population. The president needs to check these things. As citizens of goodwill, we will tell him this, because we have nothing to gain or lose from him, except to wish him well, that he leads us well. So in the issue of elections, especially on the IBC question, he needs to tread with a lot of care. Where he's taking this country is on the worst path that we can imagine. And if the political undertones we've heard from the leader of DCP is anything to go by, that 207 was a Christmas party, and the president seems to be giving it fodder, it is extremely dangerous. We should not go that direction. Lastly, I believe that the citizens in this country are aware, well aware, and we're in the information age. And our democracy is, I can say, nearly most advanced in East Africa and Central Africa. And that gives us a stand to continue doing what we are doing. The international community is watching, and they will not allow one president or one person called President Ruto to mess this country, because they also have interests which are anchored through Kenya in the East and Central African community. So the president must be very careful that in his progress or in his advance towards 2027, he must also be alert that the whole world is watching him and he cannot mess. And if he tries to mess, of course, we will hold him to account. And even us who have some goodwill for him left, we may lose it. Yeah. Thank you.
It's a good place to end.
Thank you very
so much for joining us, Odhiambo. Thank you, people, for people of the internet for joining this conversation. Let us know what your thoughts are. Where is the country? Odhiambo has articulated a lot of things in this episode today, and we are so glad that you made the time to join us today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.